Let's go to this story next. The Gift of the Givers has been facilitating delivery of humanitarian aid in Gaza. However, at times the foundation had to deal with challenges in terms of access to Gaza. For more on this story, let's now speak to Dr Imtiaz Sooliman, who is the founder of A Gift of the Givers. Dr Sooliman, good morning and thank you so much for making time for us.
Good morning, Aldrin.
Let's start off here. The chief economist of the World Food Programme is quoted as saying that everybody in Gaza is hungry. It doesn't get worse. I've never seen something at this scale that is happening in Gaza and at this speed, how quickly it has happened in just a matter of 2 months. From your vantage point and the team that you have on the ground, what are they telling you about the situation in Gaza?
Well, there's a description from the first days that this is catastrophic, this is genocidal, this is, murder, it's hunger, it's starvation. And they said the problem they have is they can't reach the areas. First of all, there's no supplies coming in. Fortunately, for 60 days, we managed to purchase whatever we could from what was available. Thereafter, everything dried out. There was nothing available from a wholesaler, shop, whatever. Whatever little they had, that's the first thing to purchase it. Then to move to areas. Well, not enough vehicles, not enough fuel, bombed out roads, bombs falling in the different areas. They said we got calls from so many places, especially in the north. Thousands, unlike what people believe, there's hundreds of thousands of people still in the north. They're calling, but we can't get to them. They're saying they're hungry. People calling in, my kids haven't eaten for 5 days. We haven't eaten. We get a little, but when it comes in. So there's intense hunger at a level that nobody's ever seen before in Gaza. So what the WHO guy is saying, or the World Food Program guy is saying, is correct. There's intense hunger. We hear it from our team members. We hear it from people on the ground. We hear it from all over. And they're saying we're very hungry. And that's why our priority has been buying food and medical supplies and concentrate on sending tons of food in when it can get in.
What's causing that blockade? Why can't your team access those people that are in need of the food as well as the medical aid?
Well, that's controlled by Israel. They only allow a certain amount of trucks per day. Just as an example, our first 3 trucks got there. They left Cairo on the 23rd of November. They got to Rafah on the 24th. They had to wait to join the queue on the 26th. On the morning of the 26th, they reached, they joined the queue. The queue is hundreds of trucks. On the night of the 30th, they got just outside the first X-ray point in Rafah. They could only move in later, about a week to 10 days later. They were stuck. There was no movement. And to cover a distance from Rafah to the Israeli checkpoint where the trucks are checked, it's only 30 kilometers. It took 13 days. The trucks finally only got in on the 13th of December. That's not over. They still have to go to a place called Qatar House. They have to wait for Palestinian trucks to come and under the supervision of the UN. Wait for Palestinian trucks to come and offload. The Palestinians don't have enough trucks. The Red Crescent doesn't have enough trucks, doesn't have enough fuel. It takes 2 to 3 days for that process alone. And thereafter, in between bombing, they're going to move the supplies. So the first challenge is getting through the border. The second challenge is how many trucks get through. Thirdly, you wait at the Israeli warehouse or their depot. It depends when they release those trucks. When those trucks can cross the 30 kilometers, come back to Rafah. When they can get into Gaza. When they can get to Qatar House. When they can offload. So it's a horrendous process. At the moment, only 40 to 50 trucks can go at a time. The need is 500 to 600 trucks a day.
Yeah. What do you think then, Dr. Sooliman, should happen now? Because the United Nations Security Council was actually supposed to meet on Monday to vote on a permanent ceasefire, at least to allow for the humanitarian aid to go into the various areas where it is required. What do you make of that? But also before, there was a resolution around a temporary pause at least, and I don't know how far that has been able to go.
Well, they're talking about the Americans, as usual, are interfering with the process. First they veto it. Now they say they don't like the words. It can't be, a cessation. It must be temporary. It mustn't be a complete. The words mustn't say cessation of hostilities. It must be something to say temporary. That's a meaningless exercise. It's like bringing food in, tell people eat, and then they're going to bomb you for a week later. It makes no sense. There has to be a permanent stop to this. It's an absolute massacre. They're killing unarmed, defenseless people. Nobody behaves like this. It breaks all the rules of war. There's no engagement, and there's no real war here. There's no 2 armies. There's one highly trained army, the 4th largest army in the world, supported by the US with bombs, money, tanks, weapons, shells, and supported by veto in the UN. It's against defenseless nation of unarmed people. There's no war yet. And this has to stop, and the world body surely can stop this, because you can't have innocent people being massacred like this. Children, the bombs amputate your arms, your legs. It causes burning sensation. They use white phosphorus, illegal weapons, and people are burned. There's no anesthetic hospitals. There's no functioning hospitals. 35 of them almost all gone. Only 6 or 7 left. But what's the point? They've deliberately targeted and shot the doctors, arrested the doctors, killed them, killed healthcare workers, killed UN workers. It's like saying, it's all right, let's take a break for 7 days, take some stuff in, and then we'll bomb you and kill you again. It's illogical. The thing has to stop.
The thing has to stop. Speak to us, Dr. Sooliman, about some of the aid that you have as part of the gift of the givers, and also the cooperation with the South African government.
Well, the South African government, let's start there. The South African government, we saw them the first week. Immediately after the war started on the 7th, I met them on the 16th in the DIRCO head office. Zain Dengo, the GG, had arranged the whole team to meet us. And, they said total cooperation from South Africa. I spoke to the minister, Naledi Pandor, and got her full support. Then at the budget speech, I met the president at the midterm budget speech, and the deputy president, and Minister Pandor, and of course the ANC Treasurer General, all were fully behind the initiative to say government fully supports this. On the 16th of October, I also met the Egyptian ambassador. He says, you know the rules. I said, yes, we've done this twice before, in 2009 and 2014. And he said, we'll assist to the best of our ability. But he says, as you know, this is not completely in our hands. And of course, our team went across to Egypt. We met the South African ambassador to Egypt. They went all out, provided letters of support. And the Egyptian government says, you've got to work with the Egyptian Red Crescent. To be honest, they've been very helpful. The Egyptian Red Crescent has been very, very helpful. But they, like everybody else, well, they're the only authority allowed to transport aid, but you also have to join the queue. If any government-to-government aid comes, it bypasses the queue and goes in first, But they've been very helpful. We have warehouses, we have got supplies. So in terms of the processes and the logistics, everything is in place. What's the problem is the delay to get inside and to get it offloaded and to get delivered. The type of supplies, of course, initially they said you can't take tents. We said, why can't you take tents? People are homeless. There's an inspection from Israel. You can't take tents. Finish. PDF, no discussion. In the first load, when the first trucks we prepared, anesthetics, medical supplies, and food. Right now, we have 10 trucks on standby. Again, a large portion of food, medical supplies, sanitary pads, diapers, blankets, mattresses, no tents. So those kind of supplies, and of course, water. They require water. We have 3 desalination plants inside Gaza. We've been using it to the point we could. Electricity was cut off. We use generators. To the extent we can get fuel when it's available from cars, people take the fuel from their cars and give it to us. We can make those desalination plants work. But in essence, without further fuel, those plants can't work.
Yeah. Is there any concern at all, Dr. Sooliman, that the food supply, especially that you have, could actually expire? Or do you have the food supply that has a long shelf life?
It has to be a long shelf life because we know the circumstances. We know things can be delayed. There's nothing new. This type of delay with Israel happens all the time, even in non-war situations. There can be paperwork, there can be disruption, there can be admin, they can make your stuff get expired and make you wait for a long time. They tried that game with us in 2002 when Aziz Pahad and myself were traveling, and our whole DIRCO team, traveling to Ramallah to take medical equipment in. They said yes, yes, yes. And for 12 weeks, they did everything possible to delay and obstruct it. Finally, with diplomatic pressure, it got in. It happens with medical supplies coming from all over the world. That's why we take non-perishable food items with a long life, and we only load the trucks when it's time for us to join the queue. Perishable items is of no point. You can't take cold chain medicines that are required to be in a cold chain. It's not going to work. Unfortunately, it's required, but it's not going to work. The only way, permanent ceasefire, they're going to open up the Gaza airport, open up the Gaza port, so they can have access from sea and air, not only a land route. And in that way, we can bring in hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies.
Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman there, the founder of A Gift of the Givers, on some of the humanitarian aid that they'd want to supply in Gaza. But now the problem is, of course, some of the restrictions that are in place, which has been an ongoing issue. And the United Nations Security Council was actually supposed to have met on Monday to vote on a proposal that there be a permanent ceasefire. And as you heard there from Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, the Americans squabbling over the wording of that particular text.